Hello there. We're going to talk about a little bit about reknotting brushes today. Now, I'm not going to show you like the whole process that I go through because it's messy and there's a lot of things like acrylic dust and stuff that flies all around if you're working with an acrylic handle. And other dust if you're working with some of the vintage brushes, things like plaster that was used in some of them and all kind of stuff on the interior of the brush, and I don't want the fans in my laptop sucking all that stuff up into my laptop and ruining it. So I'm not going to be showing the process complete, but I'm going to just give you some tips, show you a brush I'm working on, that kind of deal. So when it comes to brushes, if you want to remove a knot, there's several ways you can do it. What I would not recommend is the steam method on some of the vintage brushes. If you've got a brush, and we'll talk about this brush handle a bit later, but if you've got an acrylic handled brush, a modern acrylic, they stand up well to steaming. The knot will not survive it. Usually you've got a 50-50 chance of the knot coming out intact or coming out in a bunch of different pieces. So, I've done it before when I wanted to change a loft, and you just cross your fingers and take your chances and go into it realizing, okay, I may have to buy a new knot for this brush. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So that's my take on steaming. The other method that I'm aware of, I've seen a guy, Thomas Burgess, I think, and someone else put the knot in a vise and pop it out like that. It breaks the if you get here on the base of it, it breaks the epoxy bond, and you can pull the knot out. I've tried it 3 or 4 times. I never can. I can tighten I can put electrical tape around a knot. I can not put electrical tape around a knot. I can tighten my vise up just as tight as I can possibly get it. I've never heard any epoxy pop. And no matter how tight I tighten that vise, the knot always slips out of it. So I've never had that work, but there's videos of it on YouTube. It might work for you. So no harm in trying that. What I usually do is you can use things like drill bits and drill the knot out, drill down till you get to the epoxy, or you start seeing acrylic or whatever coming through, and then go at it with pliers and pull the rest of the knot out. Or you can use bigger and bigger drill bits, or if you got a drill press, you can use one of these wonderful bad boys. I use it by hand, but I will warn you, I'm very familiar with these drill bits from woodworking, and I also have a background in the Air Force of being trained on the use of a hand drill. And some of the stuff that I do, I'm not bragging, but some of the stuff that I do with a hand drill is very difficult for someone who's not used to using a drill really well to do. For instance, what we're going to get to in a minute, I used a 13 millimeter Forstner bit. That's what this is lovely thing. They drill nice clean holes, and went down the center of the knot after I cut it off flush with the top, and then I set this little point right here in the middle of that 13 millimeter hole, and this is with a hand drill. Now this is what I did. Would not recommend you do it. It will probably slide and skip and tear the whole part of this top part of this handle up. Like I said, I've got a lot of experience using a hand drill, so I was fairly confident I could do this. I've done it with a few brushes before, but I put it in the center. This is a 22 millimeter drill bit, same size as this hole, and I just drilled the whole knot, bottom part of that knot, clean out of this handle, no problem, nice and clean. You see, wonderfully clean with this Forstner. So there's several ways you can do it. If you got a drill press, it makes this right here a whole lot easier. But once you get the knot out, then you got to choose a knot. Well, let me introduce you to this handle. This is a vintage Rooney butterscotch handle. It had a knot in it, but the knot had seen much better days. It was still lathering really well, and I shaved with it once or twice, and it worked really good on my face and all of that. It was just butt ugly, mangy looking. It looked like somebody had attacked it with a pair of scissors with their eyes closed and just chewed the living snot, or my dog got a hold of it and chewed the living snot out of it, you know, and it just was ugly. And so I thought, you know, hey, it's seen its better days. Time to get it out of there and replace it. Now, you can get all kinds of knots. This knot I got from, and another thing, this is a 22 millimeter hole. This is a 20 millimeter knot because it's 20 millimeter. This one's probably like 19 something. Let's see. Another thing you need is a set of calipers to determine the size of the holes and the loft height of the brush and all of that. Let's just look and see what this one actually measures. This one actually measures 18.5. Now they're calling this a 20 millimeter knot. Well, usually the base measures a little bit under. They said 19.5 plus or minus half inches. Well, they went way off because they got or plus or minus, I'm sorry, half a millimeter. They went a whole millimeter the other way on this base, but that's okay. The thing of it is what you're worried about and what is 20 millimeters on this knot. If you can see, that doesn't come straight off of there. There's just a little bit of hump. Now, this is really small. There's not a big, nasty. That's what's called a glue bump. There's not a big, huge, ugly, nasty glue bump in this knot. It's a really small, really short, you know. Once you seat the knot, you'll never even feel it. But it's there. That's 20 millimeter. Okay. A lot of times, if the base is 20, that'll be 21, 22 millimeter, that glue bump. So you want a couple of millimeters difference in size between the hole, the actual hole, and the knot. You want this to be a couple of millimeters bigger. But anyway, this is an old vintage Rudy knot. What I did, like I said, I took this knot out, and one of the other things that's really, really helpful, some people use silicone to do this, silicone caulking or whatever. I don't recommend it. Silicone, I don't use it in anything that has silicone in guitar repair or guitar restoration, because silicone has a tendency to travel and go away from whatever it is you put it on. And if I use it in my shop, then I'll go to try to finish something, and I'll get craters in the finish and all kind of stuff, because the finish doesn't want to stick to whatever wood surface I'm using, because it got silicone migration on it, and you get fish eye, and which is a common problem with it, and all kind of stuff. Glues don't like to stick. It just, so I stay away from silicone. And silicone, as a matter of just general hygiene, because I do guitar repair and restorations and stuff like that, and I don't want it around. So, but anyway, I don't think that epoxy is going to stick very well to silicone either. So what I use is a hot glue gun. Now, if there's silicone in this glue, then I don't know about it, and you know, I'm running a risk. But I don't believe that there is. But anyway, I use a hot glue gun. Now, this is a low temp gun. You plug it in, let it warm up 10 minutes or so, and you're golden. And I put what I do is, when I go to determine, you use that gun to help determine what loft you want. So when I first drilled this out, the loft that this thing gave me at the floor of the cavity here, not going any further than as far as the glue as I had to get the glue plug from the old knot completely out, gave me a 50 millimeter loft on this knot. Now this knot, this is a golden nib silver tip standard. Now I avoided this knot for a long time because I read on the forums everybody says it's scritchy, and well, this knot is not. In the loft testing that I've done, and I'll tell you how I do it here in a minute, and this is just as soft as their finest to me. It's a wonderful 3-band silver tip knot. It's well packed, beautiful knot. So anyway, I put me some hot glue, a good portion of hot glue down here, and I popped that knot in it, held it for about a minute, and made sure that it was solid, it wasn't going anywhere. And then what I did is I set it down, I let it cool for about 10 minutes. And it was set at 50 then. And I got me a lather bowl and filled it full of cold water. No, because I'm going to soak the brush. And it's hot glue, and it's low temp hot glue, so I don't want hot water or warm water anywhere near that glue, because I don't want it softening back up. I don't know if it would, but I'm not taking the chance. Fill it up with cold water, set the brush in there, let it soak for about 10 minutes, and try it. Try it on my hand, palm of my hand, try it against my face, do some swirling motions, that kind of deal. Well, 50 millimeter, to me, it was too soft for this brush. Now, I like all different kinds of brushes. I like floppy brushes. I love a nice, fat, wet, floppy brush, okay? I like them. I like a mop sometimes, but I also like a really nice, stiff brush with a lot of backbone, and I wanted something that was closer to stiff than floppy for this particular brush. After all, this is a Rooney, it's not a Kent. Okay, so anyway, so I tried it at 50, didn't like it. Pop the knot out, just grab it at the base, twist and pull, and that low temp hot glue will pop right loose. And I went down 2 more millimeters to 48. Do the same thing. It's pretty much perfect for me. So that's where we're going, is 48. And that's how you determine what loft you like. You don't just put brushes together and pop it in at some arbitrary number you think is right, or don't, just take the loft that you're given by virtue of the hole that's in the handle, how deep it is and all that. Test it. Find out, is that what I want for this knot? Because every last one of them is going to be different. I guarantee you, I could probably buy another one of these exact same knots. I've got 2 more brushes that I'm restoring. Well, I'm not really. I'm restoring one, and I've got an old, where's it at? Hold on a minute. Let me see if I can find it. Okay, I got 2 more brushes that I'm going to restore. Or one that's a restore and one that's just a re-knot. The first one is this old Peerless. I had a 20 millimeter Pure Badger in this. I've decided I'm putting a 24 millimeter silver tip standard in this puppy. And then I have this brush handle, which is just a cheap, Simply Beautiful Pure Badger brush. But the handle is lathe turned. It's not molded, injection molded, or anything like that. It's a lathe turned handle. So I'm going to put a 20 millimeter silver tip standard in this puppy as well. And I'll put it at whatever loft I think it works at. So, that's the thing. Choose your loft. Now, if I wanted to put a bigger knot in here, matter of fact, I had to, because this would not fit a 20 millimeter. It would fit like an 18. Then there's a couple of things you can use. A Dremel. I would suggest a Dremel. That is what the majority of people that I've talked to that do this kind of work use, is a Dremel. But I don't have a Dremel. What I do have is a hand drill, and I know how to use one. So you can buy things like this and this, that go in a hand drill. They work really well for opening up that hole. Now on this Rooney, it's going with the size that came in it because this is a lovely brush. I've looked for over a year for a nice aged butterscotch handle. It just was luck of the draw that I found a really nice company Rooney for it. And so a 20 millimeter is going back in this, a 20 millimeter 3-band silver tip, which is what I took out of it. So, but anyway, I hope that you have gotten some tips on what to do if you want to start restoring brushes or reknotting, because I mean, for really cheap actually compared to what you could buy, if you compare the quality of the knot and all of that, the overall quality of the brush for what you could buy from a really good name, Simpson or maybe even Rooney or any of those guys, you can buy a really nice vintage handle and buy a nice knot for it and do the work yourself, and you could buy 2 of them for the price of one of those, sometimes 3 depending on which brush you're actually going to choose, for the price of one of those brushes. And they're excellent brushes. They do the job wonderfully, and I'm perfectly happy with my vintage restores. I don't really have any need or desire to try to go get a bunch of really expensive brushes, because I can get comparable quality, from my own hand. So I mean, I will try to show you a video of this, or put on the end of this video rather, maybe some pictures of this brush restored and maybe a video of me showing it to you so you can get a look at it, the finished product. But I just thought that I would kind of address brush reknotting and give you some tips and kind of encourage you, if you have thought about trying to do this, it's not difficult. What it takes is being very, very careful. You need to understand that if you're using a hand drill, a drill press, or even a Dremel, these are power tools. And if they hit your hand, they're not going to stop on their own. If something cracks loose, if a piece of this handle cracks loose and flies up and hits you in the eye, you're going to know about it. Eye protection, use caution and care. You're dealing with power tools. But if you do woodworking and stuff like that at your house, or you work with tools in any other way, I mean, the risk is the same. So I mean, you don't lose anything by trying to restore. And you can pick up a handle fairly cheap, either off the bay or antique stores and places like that. You can pick up a nice looking handle fairly cheap. The knots, I recommend the golden nib. I've never dealt with anybody else's knots, but every one of theirs that I have dealt with has been a high quality knot. I'm very, very satisfied with their what they're putting out. So, but anyway, God bless you. I hope that I've given you some encouragement. Think about it. Now, if you're one of these guys that has got to have the Simpson name or whatever, and you got the money, and enjoy. And hey, sometimes you might have the money and you might just want to try this. It can be just as addicting as anything else in the shaving world. I'm telling you that right now before you start. God bless you. And hopefully I'll tag on the end of this video. Or actually what I probably will do is I'll just do another video, a shave video or something like that with this Rooney, and let you see. You never know. You won't know till you get to the end of this. See if there's something after this. Alright. Bless you. Later.